Have you ever wondered if you're doing better or worse than everyone else when it comes to money? Maybe you're lying awake at night thinking about your bank account balance, wondering if other people your age have more saved up than you do. Or perhaps you're scrolling through social media seeing people posting about their latest vacation or brand new car, and you can't help but wonder how they afford it all. Well, today I'm going to pull back the curtain on the financial reality of the average person, and I guarantee some of these numbers are going to shock you. Some might make you feel better about your situation, while others might be a serious wake-up call. Either way, by the end of this video, you'll have a crystal clear picture of where you stand financially compared to everyone else. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. I help people understand money, personal finance, and building wealth. If you're interested in getting your finances on track and maybe even getting ahead of the pack, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if this information helps you out. Before we dive into these eye-opening statistics, let me ask you something. When you think about the average person's financial situation, what comes to mind? Do you picture someone who has their act together, steadily building wealth and preparing for retirement? Or do you imagine someone who's basically living paycheck to paycheck, hoping everything works out in the end? The truth is, most of us have no idea what normal actually looks like when it comes to money. We might have assumptions based on what we see around us, but the reality is often very different from what we imagine. And here's the thing that makes this whole topic so fascinating. Understanding these numbers isn't just about satisfying your curiosity. It's about giving you the information you need to make better decisions with your own money. Think about it this way. If you're trying to get in shape, wouldn't you want to know what the average person weighs or how much they exercise? If you're trying to improve your grades, wouldn't you want to know how you compare to other students? Money works the same way. You can make more informed choices about your spending, saving, and investing. So, start with something that affects every single working person in this country: income. When you cash your paycheck every 2 weeks, are you earning more or less than the typical worker? According to the most recent data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median weekly earnings for a full-time worker came in at just over $1,000. That works out to roughly $52,000 per year before taxes. Now, let me break that down a bit more. We're talking about individual income here, not household income, which would include a spouse or other family members who might be working. And when we say median, that means half of all workers earn more than this amount and half earn less. It's the middle of the pack. If you're making around $26 per hour, you're right there with the average full-time worker. But here's where it gets interesting. That $52,000 figure is before Uncle Sam takes his cut. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, that number shrinks pretty quickly. Depending on where you live, you might be taking home somewhere between $35,000 to $40,000. Suddenly, that doesn't seem like quite as much money, does it? But income is just one piece of the puzzle. What really matters is what people are doing with that money once they earn it. And this is where things get really fascinating and honestly, a little bit concerning. Let's talk about retirement savings, because this is where a lot of people are in for a rude awakening. According to the Federal Reserve's most recent survey, the median amount that Americans have saved for retirement is $65,000. Now, before you start feeling too good or too bad about that number, remember that this includes people of all ages who actually have retirement accounts at all. Here's the kicker. About 25% of Americans don't even have a retirement account. They have $0 saved for when they stop working. Zero. That means 1 out of every 4 people you meet is planning to rely entirely on Social Security when they retire, assuming it's even still around by then. For those who do have retirement savings, the numbers vary dramatically by age, and some of them are pretty alarming. People under 25 have a median balance of less than $2,000. Now, to be fair, if you're 23 years old and just starting your career, having $2,000 saved is actually not terrible, but it does highlight how important it is to start early. The 25 to 34 age group does a bit better, with a median balance of around $14,000. By the time we get to the 65 and older crowd, the median balance climbs to around $88,000. And while that might sound like a decent chunk of change, let's put it in perspective. If you retire with $88,000 and follow the traditional 4% withdrawal rule, you'd be able to pull out about $3,500 per year from your retirement accounts. That's less than $300 per month. $300 per month. Think about that for a second. Could you live on $300 per month in retirement? Even if you own your home outright and have no mortgage payment, $300 wouldn't cover your groceries, utilities, healthcare, and everything else you need to survive. This is why understanding these statistics is so important. If you're in your 20s, 30 seconds, or 40 seconds, and you're looking at these retirement numbers, you should be having a serious conversation with yourself about whether you're saving enough, because the average person clearly isn't. Speaking of Social Security, since so many people are planning to rely on it heavily, let's look at what the average benefit actually provides. The Social Security Administration reports that the average monthly benefit is around $1,550. That's about $18,600 per year. Now, $18,000 might sound like it could be workable, especially if you don't have a mortgage payment, but remember, this is the average payment. If you had years where you didn't work or earned very little money, your benefit could be significantly lower than this. And if you're someone who never earned much during your working years, you might be looking at a Social Security check that's barely enough to keep the lights on. On the flip side, some people take a completely different approach to Social Security. They plan their retirement assuming they won't receive a dime from Social Security, treating any benefit they do receive as a bonus. This might seem overly cautious, but given the long-term funding challenges facing the program, it's probably not a bad way to think about it. But let's shift gears and talk about something that affects your day-to-day life right now. Spending. How much does the average household actually spend each month? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, American households spend an average of about $5,577 per month. Over the course of a year, that adds up to roughly $67,000 in total spending. Now, think about what this means. If the average household is spending $67,000 per year, they need to bring home at least that much just to break even. And remember, we're talking about take-home pay, not gross income. So, if you want to have any money left over for savings, investments, or building wealth, you need to be earning significantly more than $67,000 per year as a household. This spending breaks down into some pretty predictable categories, but the amounts might surprise you. The biggest chunk goes to housing, which shouldn't shock anyone who's ever paid rent or mortgage. The average household spends about $1,885 per month on housing costs. That includes rent or mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. $1,885 per month on housing. That's over $22,000 per year just to keep a roof over your head. And if you're living in a major city, you're probably laughing at how low that number sounds. In places like San Francisco or New York, $1,800 might get you a closet with a window, if you're lucky. Food comes in as the second biggest expense, with the average household spending about $691 per month on groceries and dining out. That's over $8,000 per year just to keep everyone fed. And honestly, if you're spending less than $700 a month feeding your family, you're probably doing something right. Either that or you've mastered the art of living on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. Transportation eats up another $913 per month, which covers car payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, and public transportation. Nearly $11,000 per year just to get from point A to point B. And this is why some financial experts suggest that your housing and transportation costs combined shouldn't exceed 50% of your income. When you add up that $1,800 for housing and $900 for transportation, you're already at $2,700 per month. And we haven't even talked about anything else yet. Now, let's dive into something that can make or break your financial future. Credit scores. Most people know they should care about their credit score, but they might not know where they actually stand compared to everyone else. According to Experian, the average FICO score in America is 715, which is actually pretty solid. Credit scores range from 300 to 850, so 715 puts the average person in what's considered good credit territory. But here's what's interesting about this number. It means that a lot of people are doing at least some things right when it comes to managing their credit. They're generally paying their bills on time and keeping their debt levels reasonable. There are still plenty of people walking around with scores in the 500s and 600 seconds wondering why they can't get approved for decent interest rates on anything. Your credit score affects everything from your mortgage rate to your car loan terms. And even some employers check credit scores before hiring. The good news is that maintaining a decent credit score isn't rocket science. Don't max out your credit cards and avoid opening new credit accounts every time you want to save 10% at the checkout counter. It's really that simple, but somehow a significant portion of the population still manages to mess it up. Speaking of credit, let's talk about the elephant in the room: credit card debt. This is where things get ugly fast. The average household is carrying over $9,000 in credit card debt. 9,000. That's not a car loan or a mortgage where you're buying something that holds value. That's $9,000 spent on stuff that's probably sitting in closets gathering dust or already thrown away. What makes this even more painful is the interest rates on credit cards. We're talking 15, 20, sometimes 25% or higher. If you're paying 20% interest on $9,000 in credit card debt, you're throwing away $1,800 per year just in interest payments. That's money that could be going toward building wealth, but instead, it's making credit card companies rich. Here's the thing that really gets me about credit card debt. Most of it comes from buying things people don't actually need. Sure, sometimes people use credit cards for emergencies or unexpected expenses, but let's be honest, a lot of that $9,000 went toward clothes, electronics, dinners out, online shopping sprees, and impulse purchases that seemed like a good idea at the time. The solution is pretty straightforward, even if it's not always easy to implement. Pay off your credit card balances in full every single month. If you can't afford to pay cash for something, don't put it on a credit card unless it's a genuine emergency. And if you're already carrying a balance, make paying it off your top financial priority before you start investing for retirement. There's no point in earning 7% in the stock market if you're paying 20% on credit card debt. Now, let's talk about net worth, which is probably the best single number for measuring your overall financial health. Net worth is simply what you own minus what you owe. Add up the value of your house, your cars, your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, and everything else you own. Then subtract your mortgage, credit card debt, student loans, and any other money you owe. Whatever is left is your net worth. According to the Federal Reserve, the median net worth for American households is about $122,000. But just like with retirement savings, this number varies dramatically by age, and some of the breakdowns are pretty eye-opening. If you're under 35, the median net worth is less than $14,000. Now, if you're 25 years old and just starting your career, having $14,000 in net worth isn't terrible. But if you're 34 and still sitting at 14,000, you might want to have a serious conversation with yourself about your financial trajectory. The 35 to 44 age group does better, with a median net worth of $91,000. The 45 to 54 crowd hits $168,000. People between 55 and 64 have a median net worth of $212,000, and those 65 to 74 years old hit $266,000. Here's what I find fascinating about these numbers. They're actually pretty achievable for most people with decent incomes and some basic financial discipline. You don't need to be a stock market genius or start the next big tech company to hit these milestones. You just need to consistently spend less than you earn and invest the difference. But there's another side to this coin that we need to address: savings rates. How much of their income is the average person actually setting aside? The Bureau of Economic Analysis shows that Americans save about 6% of their income after taxes. 6%. That's it. Now, 6% might not sound terrible, but let's think about what this really means. If you're saving 6% of your income, and some of that needs to go toward short-term goals like buying a car or making a down payment on a house, there's not much left over for long-term wealth building. Consider this: the average down payment on a home is $62,000. The average kitchen renovation costs $26,000. A new car averages over $47,000. If you're only saving 6% of your income and you need to fund all these shorter-term goals, how much is actually making it into your retirement accounts? Most financial experts suggest saving at least 10 to 15% of your income specifically for retirement. And that's on top of whatever you're setting aside for other goals. If you want to retire early and not have to work until you're 70, you probably need to be saving even more than that. This brings us to something that might surprise you: retirement age. When do you think most people actually stop working? According to recent data, the average retirement age in America is 61. Now, that might sound pretty good at first. Who wouldn't want to retire at 61 and spend their golden years doing whatever they want? Most people can't collect their full Social Security benefits until age 67. So, if you're retiring at 61, you've got 6 years to bridge that gap somehow. And if your retirement savings look anything like those median numbers we talked about earlier, those 6 years might be pretty lean. Here's another way to think about it. If you start working at 22 and retire at 61, you've been in the workforce for 39 years. That's nearly 4 decades of getting up early, commuting to work, dealing with bosses, sitting in meetings, and doing whatever it is you do to earn a paycheck. After all that time, you finally get to retire with maybe $88,000 in your retirement account, which we already established, gives you about $300 per month to live on. Does that sound like a good deal to you? Because honestly, it sounds like a pretty raw deal to me. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The Social Security Administration says that someone who reaches age 65 can expect to live another 19 to 21 years. So if you retire at 61, you might have 25 years or more of retirement to fund. 25 years is a long time. That's longer than most people's entire career up to that point. And here's the question that should keep you up at night. How many of those 25 retirement years are you going to be healthy enough to actually enjoy? At 61, there's a decent chance you're still in good shape. But what about at 71 or 81? Time has a funny way of catching up with all of us. And the activities you can do at 65 might not be the same ones you can handle at 75. This is why understanding these financial statistics isn't just about satisfying curiosity. It's about recognizing that the average person's approach to money isn't working very well. When the typical American has less than $90,000 saved for retirement and is carrying $9,000 in credit card debt, something is seriously wrong with the picture. But here's the good news. And this is why I wanted to share all these numbers with you. Once you know what average looks like, it becomes pretty clear how to do better than average. And doing better than average doesn't require some magical formula or secret knowledge that only wealthy people possess. If you're consistently saving more than 6% of your income, you're already ahead of most people. If you're avoiding credit card debt, you're way ahead of the game. If you understand what you're investing in, and you're actually putting money into retirement accounts on a regular basis, you're lapping the competition. The reality is that most of these statistics are pretty achievable to beat with some basic financial discipline. You don't need to earn a six-figure salary or inherit money from a rich relative. You just need to be more intentional about your money than the average person. And frankly, that bar is set pretty low. If the average household is spending $5,500 per month, and you can figure out how to live comfortably on $4,500 per month, you've just freed up $12,000 per year for savings and investments. Do that consistently for a few decades, and you'll be in a completely different financial league than most of your peers. The same principle applies to all of these statistics. Beat the average by a little bit in multiple areas, and the compound effect over time becomes massive. Earn a bit more than $52,000 per year. Save more than 6%. Avoid credit card debt and invest consistently in low-cost index funds, and you'll retire with significantly more than $88,000. What I find most interesting about all of this is how these numbers reveal the gap between what people say they want and what they actually do. Everyone says they want financial security. Everyone says they want to retire comfortably. Everyone says they want to stop worrying about money. But the average person's behavior doesn't match up with these goals. Maybe that's because most people don't actually know what average looks like. Maybe they assume everyone else has their financial act together, so they don't feel any urgency to change their own habits. Or maybe they know they should be doing better, but they don't know where to start. Or they think it's too late to make a difference. If you're watching this video and some of these statistics hit a little too close to home, don't panic. The fact that you're here learning about money and trying to understand your financial situation already puts you ahead of a lot of people. Most folks never even take the time to figure out where they stand or what they need to do differently. The key is to use these numbers as motivation, not as an excuse to give up. If you're 35 with less than $14,000 in net worth, that doesn't mean you're doomed to financial mediocrity. It means you have some work to do, but you also have 30 years or more to get it right. And if you're already doing better than these averages in some areas, don't let that success make you complacent. Maybe you have a solid credit score and no credit card debt, but your retirement savings are behind. Or maybe you're great at saving money, but you're keeping it all in a savings account, earning practically nothing instead of investing it for growth. The bottom line is this. These financial statistics of the average person should be eye-opening, but they should also be empowering. When you know what normal looks like, you can make informed decisions about whether you want to be normal or whether you want to be better than that. Personally, I think you deserve better than retiring at 61 with $88,000 and hoping Social Security doesn't run out of money. You deserve better than carrying credit card debt and spending every dollar you earn. You deserve the peace of mind that comes with having your financial house in order.